It seems that he wants to have this grand bargain, that he's looking at the world and so, okay, we're in a multipolar world. Fair enough, we accept it. And in accepting that we're in a multipolar world, the countries that are the hard military powers, those are the ones that matter, because you can't get away from hard power. That was the speech from, I believe, Hegeseth. Hard power matters. You can have all the fantasies in the world about what you want to
remember, he can make all of these kumbaya peacemaker statements all he wants, but we heard from Hegseth in Munich that the Trump administration is at least thinking about, which means that it's probably beyond thinking, they want U.S. troops out of Europe.
Yes.
Why?
Yes.
So they can send them to the Pacific against China.
Accept that.
Don't think China doesn't recognize the contradiction between those two positions there.
I accept that. But I get the sense that he is legit in this one of, why are we spending this much money? And to your point, we're losing this notion of this kind of military buildup stuff. This doesn't suit us. It doesn't suit us in overthrowing governments. Hence, Tulsi Gabbard is in our policies in the Middle East are creating chaos. And so you get Tulsi Gabbard's argument of regime change wars and the effect of those wars. And you get him being very clear here and in Munich saying, we are done with Europe, that we are trying to reorganize the world, and we need the hard powers of the world, China and Russia, to do it. Yeah, that seems to be
where he's talking about reorganizing the world by ethnic cleansing Palestine and making real estate deals where they used to live, right? Mm-hmm. Just so you don't get too bright and Trumpified here. Right?
No, it's not that. I'm just pointing out that for the first time, an American president is at the very least acknowledging issues pertinent to Russia in regards to its own security. And
it's been speaking in the language that Russia and China have been speaking in for years. Yes. Even nods in that direction. Yes, absolutely. And
has the power to affect those changes. I mean, look, I know you said that they could put a bullet in Trump to get rid of him politically. These Republicans have laid down and, like you said, wagged their tails in the way that Putin would say about Europe. The Republican Party, for the most part, has accepted Trump's power. And in accepting his power and authority, whether it was getting Tulsi Gabbard through, whether it was getting RFK through.
And I will point out, I'm not always right, and certainly no one's going to accuse U.S. domestic politics of being my specialty with me out of the country for more than 2 decades, right? But I was wrong on Trump's ability to get Gabbard and RFK Jr. through the Senate confirmation. And to what you just said, that is clear indication that Trump has a stronger control of and grip on the Republican Party, and more important, the Republican Party elite, than I assumed, and then a lot of people assumed that he did have.
Yeah, he has that power. So, and as I pointed out on my show, the getting them through is an indication of that power. They bowed down. They bowed their heads. Many of these people had complete complaints against Tulsi Gabbard, even bringing up the idea that we're back in regime change wars. Even they laid down on the Trump issue. So I guess I'm pointing out he has
everyone except Mitch McConnell, who just fell down.
Right.
Anyway.
right. So I guess I'm pointing out that he does have the power to shepherd through a deal that these Republicans, regardless of their issues with him, will back. He can do it
for the next 3 years. Yes,
for the next 3 years. And then there's this question of, okay, where does U.S. foreign policy go? Which is why all of this stuff with trying to get rid of BRICS is nonsense. They will play him like a fiddle. Putin will play Trump like a fiddle. Totally.
BRICS is dead. It's dead. I mean, why should they ever meet again? It's gone.
Yeah, right? And that's the other issue. Trump acknowledges it on some level that the way that we've used the dollar has been detrimental to the U.S. going forward. And that we cannot be in a pissing match against the world in the way that BRICS is going to represent the world.
But
and we need to do something.
Talking about tariffing the entire world.
That too. He is totally an anomaly on this stuff. And some of this stuff doesn't really make sense.
There's a lot of contradictions here. That's all I'm saying.
Yes, and I agree with you about the contradictions. It's just wild to me.
It is. It is
a
wild.
U.S.
I
president
agree.
doing this. Yeah, I'm fascinated by it.
All our heads are all spinning, and we're all trying to play catch up, right? And
How is Moscow
domestically,
taking this, by the way? Like, what are they?
I would imagine that they have whiplash, right?
Yeah.
Like me, that they're trying to figure out where this is all going, what their real intentions are. You know, they've had some preliminary conversations now. We know that Trump and Putin have had at least one, maybe only one, but at least one conversation that lasted an hour and a half. We know that obviously intelligence officials have already been deep in talks because we had this prisoner exchange, right? So they're obviously below the table, already deep in talks. And we know that Rubio and Lavrov have already talked. And as we are talking right now, right, we've got Team Trump, which is Rubio, Waltz, and Witikoff in Saudi Arabia, and speaking to Lavrov, the Russian foreign minister, and Yuri Ushkov, whom is Putin's top personal foreign policy advisor, right? So, I mean, obviously Trump is elevating Witikoff almost in that kind of way, right? Even as a special envoy as well. So that's very interesting. It's very interesting to see the personalities here. And what we also now what Kellogg's role is in all of this, because it appeared that Kellogg might be sidelined. And actually, it appears that he's not necessarily being sidelined, but he had always had a different role from the beginning than we imagined. And he said it outright. His job is to hold the hands of Europe and Kiev,
babysit,
and keep them under control while all of this, the real negotiations are going on with Russia, with other people, right?
That's hilarious.
He's just a babysitter.
He's just a babysitter.
Oh, that's too funny, right?
That's hilarious.
That is right there. A feat of misdirection and political cunning that reminds us, don't underestimate this SOB.
Yeah.
Don't underestimate him, right? Because he played Europe, boom, up until now, right? I mean, and all of us caught along with it. So, Russia probably doesn't know how to react to all of this, but from what we've heard from them, they reiterated no territorial concessions, none of this, right? The Kremlin is acting very restrained, and they're saying exactly what I'm saying is, let's not put the cart before the horses here. Negotiations haven't even started yet, and our demands, our terms are significant because we're winning. And also, it must be said, by showing how quickly they want this done, they're also playing to Russia there. Russia saying, well, if they want this so bad, then they might be willing to give us more than we even thought. Hey, Odessa, come join the party.
Putin. You know Putin.
Right?
And he has a tendency to, let's say, be more moderate than he's characterized in the West. And if he can get a deal,
to psychologically play his opponents very skillfully. And I mean, there are more than a few people out there that have shown a facility in, shall we say, yanking Trump's ego and his vanity, right? Netanyahu, right? Previously MBS, but Putin must be counted among those. Zelensky, when he does it, just comes across as a groveling, whiny little golem-like creature, right? Or, worm tongue, whatever, and obviously, let's be honest, Trump respects strength and will to power, right? He's not as concerned with your political flavor as with those personal qualities. And he regards not just Zelensky, but also the leaders of Europe as weak and contemptible, right? he has a different, level of respect, I think, for figures like Putin, like Xi Jinping, even like Kim Jong-un, right? And Viktor Orban, whom anyone has to admit the political courage he has shown in the last few years in standing, as much as can be expected for a small country like Hungary against the entirety of the rest of the EU on many issues. And not only did we have these incredible, the Putin-Trump phone call and the speech by Hegseth, right, at Munich, but we also had the speech by J.D. Vance at Munich. And this, J.D. Vance was the attack dog. He barely even talked about Ukraine. He launched a blistering political broadside against liberal Europe, right? And my read of this is personal vengeance against all of these liberal EU technocrats and leaders who sided with Trump's domestic political opponents again and again since he was first elected and all the way through, and persecuted their own populist right as Trump sees it. And I called them, you're authoritarian. You're like Soviet apparatchiks. You are repressing freedom of speech. You are annulling elections like in Romania that don't, right? And what he's really concerned here is you are going after the people that I have a degree of political similitude with, right? If you want to call it the right, the populist right, the alt-right, I don't care, right? He sees this persecution of the AfD in Germany and Gorgescu in Romania and others, presumably Marine Le Pen, possibly even, right, in France. And he's calling, to the fury of Europe, he called them out. You're not democratic. You've sacrificed democratic values. Now, keep in mind that the U.S. is saying this even as boycotting Israel is illegal in much of the United States. Never mind the hypocrisy there. This isn't about principle. This is about the Trump right versus the European liberals, right? This is a personal political battle. And it reminds us that Trump has kept a list of every slight that he has got for the last 8 longer years by Europeans, and he wants some payback. He has contempt and hatred for them on a level that they have contempt and hatred for him. And the transatlantic relationship is the chaos bomb going off on the transatlantic relationship is even more important than Trump trying to restore some type of bromance with Russia. It's huge. It's huge. There's going to be so much damage done as the way things are going in just 3 weeks over the next 4 years that it will be a trial for the next president, even if it's a Democrat or a more conventional Republican, to heal those wounds. It was already tough, right? Yeah. After Biden won in 2000, the Europeans were like, "Oh, thank God, Master, you're back. You're back as you should be." Right now they're like, the Trump is back and he's ready to just leave. You guys are on your own. I'm out of here. I have no interest in Europe. You're weaklings, and I don't want to waste money and troops on you.
Do you expect the European military or something different to come out of Europe now that America is effectively saying we're done?
No, not yet. Not while they still have to make NATO commitments, right? Because they can't even make 2% military commitment. Most of them can't even make 2% military commitment for NATO, much less, I don't know, doubling or tripling that amount to build up a whole separate set of military institutions and framework. No, that's not happening. Europe is trapped in their inability to geopolitically have a cohesive, until they have a unified European military industrial complex, right? to produce like Russia and the United States can, they will always be second fiddle. And that will require far more investment than the Europeans have the joint political will to do. Oh, you always get Macron bringing it up, and now Zelensky's, oh, we need an EU army, or he needs an EU army anyway. But I just don't think that it's possible at this point. Too many of the European countries are too deep in debt, right? Without the ability to just print more money like the United States has, whatever they want to raise budgets, right? Mm-hmm. They have to take out loans, right? They can't just do quantitative easing, until the cows come home. I think Trump is right in recognizing that Europe is not a geopolitical actor, at least not a great power on a par. And I think he also rightly recognizes that at the end of the day, they really don't have the geopolitical cohesiveness even. There's not enough agreement. And there may be less agreement, right? I mean, we've already got Hungary and Slovakia, right? Romania could be joining them in the very near future. And France and Germany are both facing deep political crisis in their own countries.
Yeah.
Right? That could conceivably, unlikely in the case of Germany, right? But could still, in the theoretical, right, see populist right powers come to place in both countries, right? If not this year, then, still within the foreseeable future.
What is
huge? It's an earthquake.
That's what I was going to say. So what does it mean for the world? Like, if we're looking at this kind of, what does it mean to be in a multipolar world? Yeah. And I asked a question in the sense of, I don't know if Donald Trump is going to be able to change orthodoxy in the United States. Yeah, he seems to be pushing for it.
And he's so much. I mean, he's taking it all on, right?
Yeah.
It has to be a skeleton crew that really believe in it. Right. I mean, it's a huge undertaking. I would not want to bet with him. And I'm also not sure that what he has in mind to replace it is any more beneficent. Mm-hmm. But simply in the transition, right? This is the way I look at it, is under the previous Biden administration, right? He fulfilled the role of the U.S. led Western global hegemon, and was attempting to strangle the baby of the multipolar world as it was literally being born, right? Yeah. The umbilical cord still attached to the old world. He's trying to strangle it. And now, if Trump is more focused on this political battle against the deep state and trying to reform the U.S. at home and tossing Europe to the curb, like it appears that he's doing, that is a moment for the rest of the world to breathe, to grow, to take advantage and exploit this moment when the hegemon is absent, right? Maybe not even wanting to be the hegemon, at least temporarily. He's having some thoughts, right? And maybe it'll be gone in 4 years and it'll be back. But those 4 years are a window of opportunity for Russia, for China, maybe for Iran, who knows, and for the multipolar world as a whole to breathe and grow while the hegemon is inwardly focused and questioning its own nature.
But I don't get the sense that he is. See, I got that sense with Joe Biden. At the very least, I saw it in an opposite sense. Trump acknowledges, meaning I think his movements is an acknowledgement that it's a multipolar world.
Sure, but do you think that he wants to find the U.S. a constructive role in a multipolar world order? Because I don't think so.
No, I don't.
Think he envisions a return to old school imperialism and a concert of great powers, which is, do not mistake what he is intending as some type of beneficence. He's intending another type of abomination.
Right. No, I agree with you on this. I get the sense with him saying BRICS is over. I'm going to get rid of sanctions.
The transition period that is good, right? Because that is a moment of vulnerability. It's a chance for the multipolar world order to breathe. It's a chance for Russia and China to exploit this situation, right? If they need to agree with Trump on some things over the next few years, rhetorically, do photo ops with him, pretend like they're all bosom buddies, drowning beers, together and going bowling. I don't know, golf for Trump, I guess, whatever it takes, but exploit this situation. Maybe that's too cynical, right?
No,
but if people have starry-eyed views of Donald Trump because of this, yes, rejoice that it is happening thus far, but keep a cold-blooded vision of the future.
No, I agree with you. I think he is looking for a new world order as opposed to trying to,
a Trump world order.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, because he has been very clear. BRICS is over. We're ending sanctions, or at the very least, it seems like they want to end the sanctions, but they're not doing it because they love Russia. I get the sense they're doing it because they think they've gone too far, that the dollar and the way the dollar has been used has damaged U.S. interests. And so we're like, all right.
Also, keep in mind, one of his major goals is reducing inflation in the U.S. for the U.S. domestic population, right? One of the easiest ways to do that is to put more Russian oil on the global market, which will depress oil prices, right? And possibly gas as well, which will reduce inflationary pressure on the entire world, including the U.S. population. If he can't get Saudi Arabia to pump more oil, which they refuse to do, then simply ending this artificial disruption in the global market with Russian oil, right? Then that is maybe an easier path.
Mark Sleboda, International Relations and Security Analyst. You can find him on Twitter at Mark Sleboda1. You can also find him on Facebook at facebook.com/Gramsci, and of course on YouTube at Real Politic with Mark Sleboda. My man, Mark, always appreciate you, man. Thank you for this.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Mark, the one and only, definitely appreciate him, and I definitely appreciate his point of view, and I think he's right.